The Xiaomi 14 has finally entered the global market, and it is most likely the best compact smartphone of 2024. Inside the familiar looking box, you'll find the phone itself, a rubberized case, a 6-amp charging cable, and a 90-watt hypercharged charging brick. I don't have the exact pricing at the time of making this video, but last year's Xiaomi 13 started at €1,000, so this year's should be more or less the same. Now that's not exactly cheap, but there are so many upgrades this year, I don't think you'll find a better priced compact device with this amount of flagship hardware. And one of the biggest upgrades this year is found in the camera setup, so let's dive into some specs and samples. The camera module itself looks pretty similar to last year's, but the layout is more symmetrical, and there's now a textured ring wrapping around the camera island. Inside that flat glass lens sits 3 improved 50 megapixel sensors, all of which are different from last year's Xiaomi 13, but 2 of them are identical to what we saw on the 13 Pro. There's a 14mm focal length 115 degree field of view ultra-wide camera, which is very similar to last year's Pro model. However, the 23mm main camera is completely new, that being a 1 in 1.3 inch sized Light Fusion 900 sensor, which is a lot larger than last year's, has a very wide aperture of f1.6 and is paired with optical image stabilization. And lastly, we get a 75mm floating telephoto camera, which offers 3.2 times optical zoom and supports OIS as well. This also seems to be lifted straight from the Xiaomi 13 Pro. Xiaomi's partnership with Leica still stands, which offers 2 different modes, that being Leica Vibrant and Leica Authentic. Authentic is more natural while Vibrant is more vivid, and is likely what most users would stick to. Vibrant is also the default mode, so that's what we'll be using for the remainder of these photos. The ultra-wide takes very good photos whether in 50 megapixel mode or bin down mode. Color tones are matched when using the main camera, which can also shoot at 2 different resolutions, and detail is booming. And since the main camera is always on and the camera system is paired with Xiaomi's imaging engine, the 3.2 times optically zoomed telephoto camera also matches the tones of the main and ultra-wide. 10 times digital zoom barely dips in detail, but things start to decline at 30 times or even 60 times, which is the max zoom. They still look pretty good though. While the ultra-wide camera lacks a macro mode, the telephoto makes up for it due to its impressive minimum focus distance of just 10 centimeters, and this results in extremely detailed close-up shots. The floating telephoto can also be used in portrait mode, and it looks phenomenal, but unfortunately exposure compensation isn't very apparent when using the main camera, which is a similar case when recording video of a human subject. But at least the main camera benefits from 8K video. There is no portrait video mode option at all, but regular video boasts fantastic natural depth. And yes, there is an option for Dolby Vision video, but it's limited to just the main camera with a max resolution of 4K and a max frame rate of 60 FPS. 1080p slow motion video can be shot at 960 FPS, and while there is a 1920 FPS option as well, it's limited to the main camera at 720p resolution. This compact flagship can also record continuous 4K 30 FPS video, which lets you switch from the ultra-wide to the main to the telephoto all the way up to 15 times zoom in one single video, but unfortunately this cannot be done at 60 FPS. 1080p 30 FPS steady video is still around for the ultra-wide and main cameras, and it keeps things very stable even while running. But it's not really necessary since things are more than stable without it, and all 3 sensors can shoot at up to 4K 60 FPS. Color tones between the ultra-wide and main sensors are identical, and all of them offer a great amount of detail. Night video is only available for the main camera at 4K 24 FPS, and it certainly shows. Video from the ultra-wide and telephoto still come out more than decent at night, but they can get a bit jittery at times. Light noise is handled quite well when recording a video of me at night, and while the telephoto results in the most detail, its tonal range is quite a bit off. That said, portrait photos still look incredible when using the telephoto, even at night, and night mode seems to fix up tonal range issues. All 3 sensors take fantastic night mode photos. They all pack in great detail and handle light noise exceptionally well. It's worth mentioning that the large screen behind me is changing the color of the bricks on the floor. And just as we saw during the day, detail is still intact at a 10 times range. but 30x and 60x zoom levels come out as expected. It's crazy to think how such a small device packs in more punch than last year's big Xiaomi flagship. It takes incredible photos and videos, and I have to say, 2024 is a very good year for those of you who have small hands. You can pick the Xiaomi 14 up in matte black, glossy white, or jade green. I have the jade green variant and it also has a glossy design. I'm not the biggest fan of a glossy finish, but I have to say it looks rather premium thanks to that 3D glass back panel, which flows neatly into its glossy flat aluminum side rails. It's now slightly thicker at 8.2mm, a tad heavier at 193 grams, and it still has an IP68 dust and water resistant certification. Another pro upgrade is that the screen is now protected by Gorilla Glass Victus, and the bezels wrapping around the flat display are incredibly thin. There's still a tiny punch hole notch at the top center of its screen, which houses an identical 32-megapixel selfie camera, but it now finally supports 4K video. And it takes better photos too, thanks to improved post-processing. You can take selfies at 0.8x or 1x focal lengths, detail is fantastic, and edge detection is rather perfect.
What's up guys, this is TechNick recording a 4K 60fps selfie video on the brand new Xiaomi 14. Yes, you heard that right, 4K video, and not only just 4K but 60fps as well. I must say they've stepped things up this year. Let me know your thoughts on the microphone quality as well as the video quality.
Words can't quite express how happy I am to see 4K selfie video on a Xiaomi flagship, let alone a compact one. But bokeh video is still limited to 1080p resolution. Selfie video looks great at night too and is brightened up nicely thanks to an auto-adjusted frame rate, and selfie photos come out picture perfect at night, which is even more subject focused when enabling the on-screen flash. Fans have been begging Xiaomi to include 4K selfie video in a Xiaomi flagship for quite some time now. Not only have they delivered, but they have also improved overall selfie performance. Another pro-level improvement this year is that new display. So let's get into it. It's the same flat, compact 6.36-inch screen we saw last year, but the actual panel is different. It's a custom Xiaomi C8 display with a higher screen resolution that boasts 460 pixels per inch, has a wide DCI-P3 color space, and supports Dolby Vision, HDR10, HDR10+, and Widevine L1 content. The touch sampling rate is the same 240Hz, but the screen refresh rate has gone all-out pro with LTPO technology, which allows it to adjust from 1 to 120Hz. And since Xiaomi aren't holding back any punches, screen brightness now peaks at a whopping 3000 nits, which is higher than most larger flagships. When it comes to software, the Xiaomi 14 makes use of Xiaomi's new HyperOS software, which is skinned over Android 14, and since this is fully fledged global software, of course all of Google's goodies are included. HyperOS is designed with Xiaomi's new human, car, home ecosystem in mind, so cross-device support is now better than ever, and while it may look identical to MIUI 14, the overall UI has been revamped by the new graphics subsystem, which leads to better textures, colors, shadows, blurs, and dynamic animations. We still have large folders, which I have really come to enjoy, a familiar app drawer, and a new control center, though I have to say not having a settings icon in this new control center is extremely frustrating, but I'm sure this will be addressed with a future software update. The battery is now larger at 4610 mAh, wired charging is now faster at 90 watts, and wireless charging is still very fast at 50 watts. Xiaomi's Surge P2 charging and G1 battery management chips are now included in this compact device, which makes it even more pro-like. And the cherry on top is that they have now added in a new ice loop cooling system, which should keep all hardware components happy. That includes up to 512 gigs of UFS 4.0 storage, up to 12 gigs of LPDDR5X RAM, and of course the new 4nm run Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 CPU. Using all of this alongside Xiaomi's performance mode and settings yields very impressive benchmark scores across multiple different benchmark apps, especially when it comes to GPU testing in 3D Mark, which surprised me due to its small form factor. With such great scores, I naturally had to test out some gaming. Of course, we still have Game Turbo, which provides a simple overlay where you can access different features and enable performance mode. The first game tested was Genshin Impact, which is a very graphically demanding game when set to max graphical settings. The game is limited to 60 FPS on all devices, and the Xiaomi 14 had no problems hitting that max frame rate the entire time playing without ever feeling too hot. Once again, this is impressive for such a compact device. Next up, we played Real Racing 3, which can reach 120 FPS, and I'm happy to say that this little smartphone managed to average a stable frame rate of 120 without any frame drops or stutters. And then finally, we opened up Call of Duty Mobile, and I was very pleased to see that the phone can reach 120 FPS with no issues when setting the game to ultra frame rate mode. Other pro-like features of this mini smartphone include Bluetooth 5.4, NFC, dual SIM 5G, and Wi-Fi 7. It also squeezes in a USB 3.2 Type-C port, which is a very big upgrade. It retains an IR blaster, has a new customized high vibration X-axis linear motor for an experience similar to last year's Xiaomi 13 Ultra. There's a new 4 microphone array, and of course it packs in dual stereo speakers with Dolby Atmos, so let's go ahead and give them a listen. If Xiaomi had a Pro Max variant, then this would be the Pro model. It's small yet packs in everything a Pro model would usually include, such as top-of-the-line speakers, microphones, haptics, USB speeds, and connectivity. It also isn't shy of incredible hardware thanks to flagship RAM and storage, as well as the best chipset ever made by Qualcomm. It has a bigger battery, faster charging, updated software, an impressive upgraded display, an improved selfie camera which now finally offers 4K 60fps selfie video, a completely revamped back camera setup which rivals even the best large flagship smartphones around. All of this is wrapped up in a premium looking compact body, which is essentially a Pro smartphone trapped inside of a smaller build, and I couldn't be more impressed. Xiaomi really wanted to ace the smaller Xiaomi 14, since the larger Pro model will most likely not come to the global market, which makes sense when you start considering the Xiaomi 14 Ultra. So stay tuned for that one, and let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. This is TechNick, and I'll catch you in the next one.